Welcome to the Macedon campaign for Dividi Et Impera 1.2.3d. This is the update that was released to complement the Ancestral Update that was released on the 9th of August 2018 if you're watching this in the future. Now, before I get into any detail about the update, what I want to do is talk about a few things. Top of the list, guys, a very big thank you to all the DEI mod team who have worked very hard to make it possible for me and many of you other guys to play Dividi Et Impera the day after the Ancestral Update came out. Very big thank you to you guys. Great effort. Very, very much appreciated. Now, the next point, guys, is that in this video, I'm going to be talking about the Ancestral Update, but only in the context of Dividi Et Impera. I'm not going to be talking about the vanilla game changes, and I'm definitely not going to be talking about the campaign pack that was released at the same time called The Rise of the Republic. Now, the reason I'm not going to be talking about the vanilla game and The Rise of the Republic is that there's already quite a few guys covering that on their channels. You've got Lionheart, Simpsy, Jackie Fish, Heir of Carthage. They're all doing campaigns, and I've been watching them. They're fascinating, but I just don't get a feel for it, guys. And I've taken the conscious decision that I'm not going to go and play Rise of the Republic myself until the Dividi Et Impera mod team work their magic on the campaign. So when I'm talking here, there is going to be some overlap between Dividi Et Impera and the new update. And if any of you guys really want to know the extent of all the changes, in the video description there will be a link to the 1.2.3d update and the actual Ancestral Update patch notes, and I think there's some additional patch notes, although to be honest I can't see the difference between them. So if any of you guys really want to see the detail, feel free to actually go in and look at those patch notes. Now, before we get into the real core elements of this update, which is the family tree and the intrigues, I want to talk about some of the other changes that have been implemented. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a mix between DEI and the Ancestral Update. Apologies for that, guys, but I can't think of any other way to do it because there is some overlap and there are obviously some differences. For example, in the vanilla game, they've enhanced the agent actions, and I actually agree with Dresden's statement in the forums to say they're OP. So in Dividi Et Impera, Dresden has taken the decision to say that they're not going to implement them. So when I'm talking about agent actions and maybe some of the family traits, there could be some differences in that area, and I want to emphasize that straight away. Another area is the visual enhancements. Now, this has been very much a focus of CA. Now, I'm not going to actually show you any visual enhancements here because I don't think I can actually do, because a lot of them seem to be battle related. There's shadows and actual water visual effects. So if I zoom in here, I suppose the water does look better. I have to admit, guys, it's a little bit difficult for me to tell. One, because I don't really play on ultra graphic settings, because I'm more interested in the strategy, the battles of the game rather than the visual effects. Plus, I'm also recording this on a laptop. I suppose it does look better, which isn't really up to the same standard as my gaming machine. If you want to see those visual effects again, I'm pretty sure there's some other YouTuber that's really gone into them and made special videos on that aspect. However, what I am going to talk about is some of the changes that have attracted my attention. One is quite intriguing. I'm going to start with that one straight away. This is quite cryptic. I'm not sure if this actually applies to Dividi Et Impera. It says unit formations are now limited to 4 lines deep. Now, you can read that in two ways, as though you has to be 4 line deeps to get the formation, but I actually get the feeling what CA are getting at this is their fix to spaghetti line, which was always a problem in Rome 2. And I think what they're implying is that to have a formation, your unit has to be four rows deep, but it could be 6 if you want to narrow the front down, or possibly even 8. So that's an interesting concept. As I say, I'm going to be interested to see how that actually works on a battle, but obviously I'm not going to be able to demonstrate that in this video. The next one is something I've never had a problem with, and again, I can't demonstrate it just at the moment because we're not actually attacking anyone. And it actually says reinforcement range is now visible as a half transparent area. alongside the arrows. Well, to be honest, I've never had a problem with the arrows, so I'm not sure why CA have actually done that. And the next one is something that I am quite interested in. I am going to be intrigued to see if it will actually work in a battle on a coastal settlement. And that says that ships now leave after disembarking their troops. Now, if any of you guys played Attila, you're probably very familiar with that mechanic. And hopefully it will now stop when you're fighting major battles, especially when the AI has a major navy, when all the navy can't get ashore because all the slots are already taken. And the final minor point is it now says unit formations can be used on walls. I'm going to be quite interested in seeing how that works, because I think any of you guys who've set up a siege, you've always been aware that sometimes getting units into formation on top of walls can be incredibly fiddly. Right guys, before we move on to the core of this update, which is the family tree, I want to talk a little bit about agents, and this may spill over slightly into generals. If I click on this spy here and we just go and look at the details, you can see agents now have 6 traits, and I suppose your best way to call this 3 household skills. This hasn't changed at all, and it's quite curious because it says here this is currently no household member or objects available for this assignment. So it's almost like the household skills have now been split into 3 groups. Now, from an agent perspective, I'm not sure what the benefit of this is, even the traits, because agents tend to progress very slowly. They don't seem to accumulate traits that much, and they certainly don't gain a lot in the way of households. In fact, I think I've gone through all my actual agents. I think even this agent doesn't actually have any household. No, I think this guy's the only one who's actually got a household. So I'm not totally sure what the actual benefits of this extension has been, unless it's more related to the vanilla game. Now, the one thing that does interest me, if I flip back to the general, you can see now that the household skills have been, these are very much the way they were before, but I think Dresden said that they've imported some of the ones in from the vanilla game here, which are predominantly military. So I'm hoping that these household skills are maybe split by availability, and I'm half hoping, fingers crossed, don't quote me on this guys, because I've gone through all my generals and agents and I haven't found anyone yet with a household skill that goes into this slot, and I'm half hoping that this may actually contain skills which may relate to female characters, because at the moment female characters get these same traits. I'll talk a bit more about this once we get into the character screen. And as you can see, a lot of this stuff doesn't actually really benefit female characters. So I'm hoping that this slot may actually get developed in that context. Fingers crossed, guys. Okay, guys, I think that's all I need to say about agents. I think now we need to get down to the real core of this update, which is the family tree, which you can see in the center here. Now, it's the character screen that's changed completely. The summary screen and the politics screen remains the same. And if any of you guys are familiar with the game, you will see that the original character screen has been shrunk down and moved to the left here. We can still hire on the top here. This is for hiring politicians. And obviously the ruling faction has been taken away. And you've got the family tree in the middle. And you've got this area on the right hand side that actually relates to members of the ruling faction who are not family members. So i.e. these are people that you've actually hired as statesmen or on the campaign map as generals. Now, what I will say, guys, is that obviously this is an advanced campaign which I've loaded in with the new update. Now, if you start a new campaign, what actually happens is that this panel is completely blank. Your family starting generals, statesmen, whoever they are, will appear here, and of course on this side here you will get one general statesman who will represent the political parties that will be opposing you. So that's the way the screen would look if you're actually starting a campaign. But obviously this is a campaign, I think I'm 28 parts in, so obviously this is going to look very different. Now, for any of you guys who are not familiar with the layout of these screens, I'll just try and give you a quick overview before we get into any details, because this screen now looks a little bit cluttered. The number in the center of the picture is the gravitas. Below here you've actually got I think it's the number of senators which represents their political powers. I think this is the number of regions they hold, in the sense of, if I come out here and we come into this screen, it's this map here. So it's saying a number of regions that each political party actually holds. This is influence and this is loyalty. Now you can check these separately over here, and this is probably a bit more useful. As you can see, it says here this party's got 28 senators out of a maximum of 300. Now for your ruling faction, you've got to come to this screen to actually see this. This is not, information is not displayed anywhere else. And we're just going to come back. So that's all these small numbers underneath. Now if you look across into the family, they've obviously got no numbers under their name, but if you click here, you will get the breakdown here. And of course this is age, this is ambition, and again it's quite curious in the sense that you can now see that by mousing over you can actually get the same information. So there's a certain amount of information duplication on this screen. I'm not exactly sure. I think it may be because they've combining the various game mechanics together is probably the best way to describe it. Now obviously on the right hand side, these people do not represent individual parties, so they just represent their personal stats there. I think that's gravitas, zeal, age, or ambition. Yep, I think that's ambition. Sorry guys, it's, to be honest, I don't pay much attention to a lot of these stats during the normal game. And of course across the top I think we've got authority, cunning and zeal, which is not shown on that side. So the screen does look a bit confusing, especially if you're a new player, but it does make sense. Now in the center we've got the family tree. Now obviously if you're starting a new campaign, these will be predefined, but of course I'm into an existing campaign and my original leader has long since died. And I think what actually happened is the process that updated my save game obviously chose the faction leader. They chose the oldest general, who is Antigonus III, and yeah, I think like that. And they also chose a random female politician to act as a daughter of this guy here to create a family dynasty. Now one thing I am curious about, guys, and some of you might be able to explain this, or maybe we'll just have to see how it works out. Now if any of you guys played a video to Impera, you'll be aware that there is this concept of historical characters. Now the way the update goes is these characters will eventually get married. We'll talk about marriage in a minute. It's quite quirky. And my interest is where are these historical characters going to drop in? I mean, I can't see them dropping into the family tree. So I think historical characters are going to drop in as other nobles, a bit like Philip V here. I mean, I'm half tempted to kind of start a new campaign to actually see how that mechanism's going to work, especially in the context of Rome and Carthage, because those historical characters would be classified as family members. But I'm not going to knock the mod team on this, because obviously this was dropped on them briefly. They may be able to fix it in the future. If they can't, well, I don't think it's the end of the world, guys. That's just a point that maybe you need to bear in mind, especially if you want to play a historically correct game. Let's move on. I think the next thing I want to look at is these symbols in the center here, and the one on the left is actually the faction leader, although it's actually been given this name Balasus, which is actually relates to this here. And you've also got the family leader. Now I'm going to put my hand up, guys. I'm a little bit confused exactly what the roles of these are. I've done some work on the forums and had a look around. I think I've got the gist of it, and this applies to anything I say now, guys. If you've got an opinion, you've got other knowledge, feel free to put it into the comments in the video description. If you've got any questions, feel free to put it into the video description and I will try and answer them. But please be aware that this family connection is a little bit abstract, and actually from reading the forums, I get the impression even CA aren't exactly too sure how this mechanism works. So let's start with the family leader first. Now, as far as I can tell, that the only advantage of being the family leader, I just need to click off of the leader because it will illustrate it a little bit better, is that down here you've got two intrigues, that's the best way to call them, which are specific to the family leader. One is educate and the other one is declare an heir, which makes sense. So if we come back to here now, I don't have the cash to actually do the educate, but we can actually give this guy, make this guy the heir, which makes sense because he's the male character. I mean, I suppose I could have made the female character an heir, but I'm not sure how that's going to work. So he's the heir. Now, obviously, as the faction leader, you still get this kind of mega trait as becoming the faction leader, which used to be yellow, it's now red. And of course, one of the consequences of becoming faction leader, you lose all your progression. If I come here, you will see that there's now a progression bar or career bar across the top. Now, men it's 7, women it's 4. And you can now come through here and actually see it. And if you want to actually promote manually, you come here. I'm still assuming that the auto promote will actually still work. Now, back to the being the faction leader. So as far as I can see, the only tangible benefit for being the faction leader is you actually get this booster trait here, which is very, very useful, especially with the gravitas and the upkeep in the early part of the game. But the skills, now this guy was quite a good general, but he lost all his skills. I think that what actually happens is that when you get promoted, I'm going to be interested to see what happens when, if this guy dies, what actually happens when he inherits. Now, that's the straightforward part of this mechanic. Now, the kind of woody bit of this faction leader mechanic is something which I must admit I don't completely understand. Now, just to give you a bit of background, guys, if I come into here, we are a kingdom and we've a politia. Now, as far as I can tell, what I'm about to say applies to republics, and what they're actually saying on the forums is that when this faction leader dies, the faction leader goes to the person with the higher gravitas. So if you've got a heir who's got lower gravitas than, say, a general, I mean, so like here, this guy Herodotus, he has got higher gravitas. So if this guy dies, what they're saying is that this faction leader trait passes to this guy. Now, so that seems to be implying that this can move over to here. And there's another supplementary in this, in the fact that it says that this can move to other families. And I've read something from somebody from CA who seemed to be saying that no, it's only within the family. But then someone kind of chirped in and said, well, I had it and it moved outside the families. Now, I don't know if that is a bug, because obviously when the forums are relating to the pre-released beta version, but it seems if you're playing a republic, I'm kind of half tempted to play Rome just to see what actually happens, whether this actually moves around on an arbitrary basis. It's also going to be quite interesting in the sense that, say I've got a female character here that's got 896 gravitas. Does that mean that if he dies and he becomes the family leader, she could become the faction leader? And that's all I'm going to say, guys, because I'm going to be honest, guys, I don't really understand this. And I think the only way we're going to actually really understand it is to get in and actually do some gameplay, I think. I mean, if any of you guys done it, feel free to add a comment. That's all I'm going to say on this, guys. Right, I think that's the family tree, guys. Now, what I want to do now is talk a little bit about the intrigues, because I think this is going to take a little bit of getting used to, because as an example, if I click on, actually, let's click on her, you will see that these middle 2 rows, it says there's things in it says that are only available to party members, but there's also other things that they can do. So what intrigue depends on who they are. Also, if I click on this guy who's actually a general, you will see that certain things up here now, because he's not a statesperson, he cannot actually do these. And of course, as I've already mentioned, guys, that some of these things, if I come in here, what they can and can't do, some of them cost gravitas, some of them cost money and gravitas, and some just cost money only. So that costs money, that costs gravitas, and getting married, which is something that is a whole subject in itself, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, is actually a mixture of the two. So it's going to take a little while to actually get my head round which ones of these are actually used. I just don't feel some of these guys. I mean, +8 gravitas, send emissary. I mean, This is the way that you're going to have to build your female characters up, is if I get here. Obviously, I don't have the cash for these. But to build your female characters up in order to get this, you've got to do the political actions until such time as they can get traits, because the only other way you can do this is hunt through here to actually find a household skill that actually gives gravitas. But it's going to be a bit of a tough thing, and this comes back to what I was saying, guys, that really female characters need their own household trait. And mercantile, so she could be actually become, oh, that's interesting. That is very, very useful, guys. I'm sorry for the digression, because just to explain, guys, what you actually get here is in this screen you could only ever see your successor. Like here I've got this guy first for Paris in the Thessalonian nobility, but it seems you can now see the actual trait of the next person in the party, and Patriot. Now that's going to be very useful, because it will mean that when you're planning this, so for example, this guy's got a thirst for power, and he's obviously going to give a negative loyalty when this guy actually dies. And one of the problems up until this update was, if I killed this guy off, you never knew who you'd get next, and you could get anything. But it seems you can now plan, because you can actually see here. So she's actually got mercantile. So she's actually +1 law for each trader stuff. Oh, that's quite cool, actually, guys. It'd be interesting whether she could actually inherit the leadership of the party. I'm half tempted to kill this guy off just to see. Apologies for the digression. Okay, guys. I think what we're going to do now is just going to have a quick run through these different intrigues, just to give you guys an idea of the film. I know I've been flipping over them. So you've got secure promotion, improve relations. These are the political ones here. Leisure time. Cunning requires seal. Take a break from politics on a deserved vacation. +1 cunning for target. So can I actually? I don't know if we can actually. No, we don't have the money. We got money. So and again, this is something else that you need to be aware of, guys, that you actually need somebody with the leveled skills to actually carry out these actions. So I mean, an example here, guys, is I think up here, one of my general here, embezzle funds. My faction leader cannot actually embezzle funds because he doesn't have a level 6 cunning, which then brings in another issue, in the sense that when you're actually building up through the game and you've got your heir here, you're going to need to build up, like my heir here needs to build up the necessary cunning and skills to actually function as a faction leader. I'm quite drawn to this concept, guys. Anyway, sorry for the digressions. So we're going to come back to here, and we can send emissary, organize games, send a diplomat. Now the faction leader cannot send a diplomat because he's not available. We've also got assassinate. What we got? Assassinate. That's probably going to be a bit dodgy, but it could be useful to kill off that guy I was just been talking about. Spread rumors, gather support, political marriage. We're going to be talking about marriage in a minute. Entice. I'm not sure exactly what that is. It says halves the target's gravitas. Now that could be quite useful to build up power, because again here, guys, I've actually low. So I can actually see a little bit of intrigue here, because if you could zap, say, this guy with that, that could be quite interesting. 2 or more cunning than the, and again, this is a condition. It says requires 2 or more cunning than the target's authority. So if I was going to zap this guy, he's got an authority of 10. Wow. So if I went there and tried to click that, yeah, he's not. I can't do him. Okay, interesting. Of course, you can embezzle funds. It seems anybody can embezzle funds as long as they got more than 6 cunning. And she's got 6 cunning. You can send a gift, which these are like actions now which improve relations. Do a favour. Flirt. Target spouse. So once one of these people are actually married, they can actually target. Can you actually? No, so only family members can flirt. Okay, guys. Praise requires 2 or more targets. No valid targets for this action. Insult, so you can insult other people and you can provoke. Apologies guys, I've got a little bit of a cough at the moment. I think I'm getting a summer cold, and therefore if the breaks in the video is me actually chopping out the coughs and wheezes. Anyway, let's just do the bottom row. Obviously we're going to go seek spouse. I'm going to kind of do a section specifically on marriage in a minute. We can obviously get divorced, but we need someone who's actually married to get divorced. I don't know if there's yeah, but he doesn't have the money. Spouse's party loyalty too high. That's interesting. There's lots of conditions here. Now, Usurp Legacy, this is quite an interesting one in the sense that I don't think he's going to suppose no right to be heir. I think this will apply if, say, this guy or this guy has children who want to be heir, and then they will be able to do it. Educate is obviously relates to the family leader, and I don't know if he can actually do it. I presume if you've got that ability, you will then be able to click on there. I presume you will only be able to educate members of your own family. You declare heir, we've done, and adopt. Now obviously we could adopt gravitas, I don't know, so we can actually adopt someone in. So this might be the solution to the actual family situation. So constantly accepted the party has pledged its allegiance. So we've now adopted Philip. So as I say, this may be the mechanism of actually bringing in historical characters into your family. So only a character is not part of the family's bloodline. So if this guy had 33 gravitas, you've got Philip in here. So now technically, what we do is go back. The family leader's gravitas is too high. So obviously to usurp, you've got to have a lot of gravitas in order to go up here. So that's how it works anyway, guys. So we've got that there. Right, guys, now we're going to talk about marriage. And if you saw that Philip V is no longer a member of the family and our guy here is no longer the heir, the reason for that is that I had to check a few things before starting this section. So I've effectively quitted out and had to reload the game, because this seems to be the easiest way to explain how the new mechanic works. If I try and do it as a series of continuous actions, it just gets confusing. And what we're going to be doing is picking on this guy here. He's a member of the local Hellenic nobles. And what we're going to do is a normal marriage, because there's two types of marriage now. You've got normal marriage and you've actually got political marriage. And just before we do this, a bit of preparation, guys. If you come here, you will see that the local Hellenic nobles have 36 loyalty. And the attribute I want to draw your attention to is it says promoted characters 19. That's the amount of loyalty they're getting from promotions. And what I'm going to do, keep on doing that. It's annoying. And what I'm going to do now, guys, is we're going to kick this guy and we're just going to marry him normally. You can see it takes 20 gravitas and costs 570 action. And also, I'll draw your attention to the fact that the local Hellenic nobles at the moment has only got one female politician. And we're now going to get a couple as married, seek spouse. It's instantaneous, and you can see straight away first that Achia has joined the local Hellenic nobles in her own right. She's got her own attributes. She's got a husband who gives +5 research faction wise, +2 cunning, +3 loyalty to local Hellenic there, and he's gained a wife. She's got +1 authority, +3 loyalty from local Hellenic nobles, +1 public order. And I'm assuming she's giving those traits to him. Now, as you see, that's got +3, that's got +3. Now, if I come up to the politics screen here, you will see that the loyalty of the party's gone to 39. If I come over here, it says promoted characters has now risen by 22. So the very fact that this guy has gone out and got himself a wife has increased the loyalty of the party. I don't know if it's because he's settled down and he's more mature thing, but that is the way marriage worked before the update, with the exception in the fact that that was a political marriage. The only ways these guys could get married if I instigated the political things. Any of you guys played the game, you remember there was an option that said arranged marriage, and there was an implied marriage between the local Hellenic nobles and the ruling faction. So that's the way. That also applies to members on this side. In fact, I'll demonstrate it, guys. So here we are, guys. I've reloaded the game, and this time we're marry one of the female companions. You can see the lowest person in the listing is actually Philip V. And if we come here and we just click here, she's got married, and we've now got Nicolander down the bottom here. He's actually, so he's saying that this wife up here is actually a Spartan, so she's got -2 authority, +3 loyalty, and 2 public order. And Nicolander is there, so he's saying that she is a Spartan wife, +1 gravitas per turn, +3 loyalty, +2.5 morale for all units, and wealth. So this wife has actually gained. It also works for the male characters on this side. If they get married, they add a female statesman to the polity, and they get this a trait here. Now hold that in your mind, guys. Now we're going to look at the political marriages, and of course what I'm going to have to do is go out and reload the game again. So okay guys, we're back again. Now we're going to talk about political marriages, and this is where it gets a little bit interesting and a little bit messy, because if I click on the male characters, you can go here, you'll see it says no valid targets this action. The reason for that is that both these female characters are married, so there's nobody on this side that he can marry, and he cannot actually marry into the family, even though technically he could be outside. I suppose they're protected against incestuous relationships. So for political marriages, this is primarily going to be a function, as it was before the update, of the female politicians. Now she can click here, and one of the interesting traits straight away is that you only get targets that are unmarried and have less gravitas, because I think if I cancel that, oh no, he's married, he's unmarried, and he's got 623. Actually, probably the best way to illustrate this, guys, if I choose her, you will see that now this guy, even though he's actually unmarried, he has more gravitas than hers, so she cannot marry him. So we're just going to flip back to her and go back to this, and we're going to marry this guy again. I'm not picking on him deliberately. And you see we've now done a political marriage, and just to show you the politics here, this time it's only gone up 2 instead of 3 compared to the last time. And you also see it's not a promoted character, it's actually a political action, which means this lasts a lot less than a promoted type. So the actual political marriage is actually weaker than a normal marriage. I don't know if that's actually a flaw in the update or a bug, and it can be fixed later on. I've got no idea, guys. I'm just pointing out the way it is now. And more interestingly, no character has swapped sides. So he's actually married to her, but it does not show up here. And he has not moved over to this side, and she has not moved over to that side. And these have got no area here. But if you actually click on here and come down to here, it actually says this character is already married. And the same here. So the game knows that they're already married. What actually happens is that these do not get any benefits from their spouse, which is a bit odd, guys. I mean, I can understand the game mechanic, but it just makes me wonder, why would you want to do a political marriage? Normal marriages may be actually more beneficial. So that's a point, guys. Something that you probably need to think about. And what I'm going to do now is just do it one more time. Apologies, but for the actual family tree, because I do want to show you how it works with the family tree. Here we are, we're back again, and this time we're going to do a marriage family. You can see again both options are available, but the political marriage says here not available to member of own party. So she can't marry back into her own party. The only person she can marry is this guy here again, and we're just going to do that. And you can see this time it now shows that he's a member of another party. But all you get, again, is just this 2 for political actions. And, oops, done it again. Sorry, guys, I keep on doing that. And more importantly, he doesn't get the benefit of the spouse relationship, nor does she. And as a member of her family, she could really do with that relationship there. So it's a bit weird, guys, and that's all I can say. And I think what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm going to reload the game again, but this time we're actually going to do the necessary proper changes, because I think this just about finishes up talking about the family tree, and then I want to move on to the next part of this video. Right guys, welcome back. This is the last time, I promise, and what I'm going to do is correct what I was doing. Now, the political marriage can also apply to male characters, but they've got exactly the same problem as the time it says no valid targets. So what we're actually going to do is marry off her, but what we're going to do is just give her a normal marriage, just to demonstrate guys. And you can see now Nicolanda is actually now part of the family, and she has actually got a proper family. She loses 2 authority. That's probably not particularly very good, but we've actually gained a family member here who's actually properly married into the family. He's got her as his wife, and she's given him traits. So what I would say guys is, if you're building the family up, you're probably better off just going for an ordinary marriage than political marriages. And I'm not sure exactly why. I mean, the only reason I can see of having a political marriage is if you've got someone who's a bit powerful and you want to kind of weaken them by making an associate that has no benefits. And I think what we're going to do guys is we should be able to declare him as an heir. And we should have enough power left to actually adopt, and we're going to adopt Philip here. And that it basically gets the game to a position now where I want to take it forward into my continuing campaign. And so we've now got our daughter, I suppose the daughter of this guy who's the sister of the leader. She's now married to somebody who's pretty good in her own way. I mean, he's given her -2 authority, but like I've said before, the female political element can be seen as a little bit weak. And we've now got Philip in here. He's actually got the benefit. I don't know if that's actually affected. It doesn't seem to have affected the actual things, political actions. I mean, none of these have dropped substantially. Our test one, he's definitely not dropped. So he's obviously not objecting to those marriages. And of course, we've now got our heir. Right guys, I think it's now time to move on, and what I'm going to talk about is, as you can see here, the negative impact of loading a pre-update save game in. And you can see my food is -27, and if you follow the series, and I've actually checked this on the video, I actually had +2 food when I actually saved this game before the update. So somehow my food has dropped -29. I've got a pretty good idea what it is. I've also got some public order issues, although it's not quite as bad as it looks on here. But we're going to go through it. And what I've done is, it took me a little while to actually track down what was causing it. And what seems to have happened is all my armies are now on foraging, which isn't something that should be happening, because they're all in my own territory and they should be drawing supplies, or at the very least buying local supplies. So I think this has actually caused the high food consumption here. Also, there's a strange oddity in here. If I come to the public order, I mean, I'm getting away with it because my public order is quite strong, in the sense that it's saying that I've got a military presence of -8. Normally you would get that from a hostile army. So I think what's happened is, with the import, is that the game hasn't synced yet to my armies. Now, some of the negative food is actually due to the fact that these armies are recruiting. If I come up to here and show you the summary, it says here, logistics, I'm getting -6 food from global supply. But I think I can fix this, guys, by, if I come in here and just turn this off, that gets me down to -3. Also, during my investigation, I found that I've actually left Pella with my bread and games, so I'm going to flip that to taxation. Now it still means I'm going to go over the end turn with -3, and we're just going to flip over it. I'm just going to do the end turn now, guys. I think that's all I can do. I don't think I can actually fix it. Okay, we got might as well do this, because this is the save game that I'm actually going to save. And you can see this is the new options in here you've got there. Now, as far as I know, these are all roughly the same as they were before. I don't see any changes, because as Dresden said, he's going to stick with what we've currently got. So we're just going to drop that in there, guys. And we're just going to go for an end turn. Right, guys, that was a very long end turn. It was about I'd say nearly 3 times longer than normal. So I think the game was still doing adjustments as it was going through. So we've got a development focus apparent there. Well, I think I'm going to stay civilian because I think I've just done siege towers, and Doris has got an upgrade, and of course we got research, and somebody's managed. Oh, the Paragon usurpers have gone to war with Rhodes, and for some reason I'm right over here. And you can see my food is now turned positive, mainly because these guys have actually stopped recruiting. And what I should have now is we've still got logistics of -6. That's okay. So that's looking good. In fact, +5 for actual winter is pretty good. But obviously I'm not getting the income from this area here. But what I want to do is I'm going to get a farm in there to try and fix that food problem. Now, I just want to check that here, and what I want to do now is just come up here, and it looks like we've actually cleared the effect of the armies, and these guys are now actually back to there. They're on low supply. Actually, let's have a quick look through the various armies. Just have a look. You're docked. So you're okay. You're docked. You're foraging, of course. You're down in this area here, which is understandable. You're foraging. Everyone's on foraging. I can't see anyone who's actually on supplies. I would have thought someone would be on a supply. Oh, there, you're on supply line. So it looks like the game is now reset to that. That might actually affect the food. Actually, let's just inch you out here. And of course, what we should be able to do is just drop you in patrol. That will give me a bit of food now, because patrol actually reduces the food consumption. I'll just have a look here. And you're still on supplies. I'm not sure why. I suppose if I move this army away. Actually, I'm not too sure. Actually, I'm not too sure where our supply line actually runs from, guys. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm not going to get too much into this. I don't really want to get into too much gameplay. And I think we've actually fixed the public order. I just want to check up here. Yeah, so we've actually cleared all that affect the public order. So that was quite a reset. So the game looks fairly ready to go and move forward into some actually serious gameplay. I'm not going to do any gameplay in this, because I think probably by the time I put all the various components together, it's going to be quite a long video anyway. Right guys, just to wind the video up now, I'm just going to broach something that's a little bit of an elephant in the room, and that is the fact that given the changes to the family tree, and I must admit I'm intrigued by this mechanic with the Republic, and because I'm pressed with time, I cannot start a second Dividi et Impera campaign. Well, not for a very long time. So I'm kind of half thinking about starting a new campaign again. But I'm going to put it out to you there, guys, because obviously some of you guys have got a lot of time invested in following this series. But what I would say on the pro side is the fact that now I've broken out. I mean, when I was up here, trapped up in here, I was hanging on by a thing. But now I've broken through here. You can see Egypt is pretty weak now because they're taking bashing from Nabatea. So I think my armies can come in here, take Egypt. We're not probably going to push down too far. That gives us the victory condition. Then we can consolidate our position and then just push east. So for all intents and purposes, this campaign is won. I'm short of me doing something really stupid. And I've got over my main concern is the fact that the update would break the playthrough. I think we've proven that that's not necessarily true. Obviously, I would have to spend 4 or 5 turns getting everything sorted out. I'd probably like to get Jerusalem stable. I mean, I probably would like to come out here and whack Petra just to get these guys off of my back. In fact, that's probably what I would do in the next part. I am going to do at least one more part. I think we will probably come out, take Petra, consolidate this area here, and drive Nabatea with Egypt, so that when we advance into this area, we can effectively clean this whole area out, take Egypt. That's the strategy going forward. I mean, feel free to add a comment. Do you think it's worth starting again? And and it's really exploring the new mechanics or carrying on with this series. What I would probably say is if I start again, I would like to explore the Republic. So I've got a feeling that it's probably going to have to be Rome, because I'm pretty sure offhand now Rome actually starts as a republic. Anyway, I'm just putting it out there, guys. Feel free to voice your own opinion. And all I'm going to say, guys, is if you managed to get this far, congratulations. It was a pretty heavy going video. And all I can say, guys, is whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.